from here! Get back! Get back! Good, right. What's he doing there? Constable, get that man out of there!
Hello, welcome back to Ycft. We are back talking about some Hammer. Yeah. I know I said I wanted Curse of the Werewolf to be the next one that we did, but I was overruled.
Yes.
And we are doing Quatermass and the Pit. I'm just going to go off it's from 1968, directed by 1967. I always get that wrong.
I thought it was 64 at first.
1967, directed by Roy Wood Baker, who turns out this was his first Hammer film.
I think it was.
And actually went on to direct some of our favourite Hammer films.
He did.
Because he did Scars of Dracula, didn't he?
He did Scars, he did Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, he did The Anniversary, he did a fair few, yeah.
The Blu-ray that I picked up. I also want to tell a story of this Blu-ray in particular. I went to pick it up from a shop called FOP, which is a subsidiary of HMV. I was there, it was about 9:15 in the morning, so it just opened. And I just saw it. I didn't have to go in looking for it. I just saw it on Blu-ray, and I've never seen a Blu-ray of this film just out in the wild. So I was like, I've got to get it. I have to get this. Went up and I said I didn't even know this existed. Someone was like, oh, I've never actually heard of this film. But you're the second person today to buy it.
I love that.
I'm like, but the shop's been open for 15 minutes.
What are you talking about?
They're like, oh, this is en route to be the bestseller today. And I was like, what? Who else has bought Quatermass and the Pit on Blu-ray?
There's a run on Quatermass and the Pit,
Yeah, a really nice remaster. Yeah. The Blu-ray and the DVD, a ton of special features, and it cost me £9.
Happy days.
Force more powerful than 1,000 H-bombs unleashed to devastate the Earth. World in panic. City in flames. Not quite accurate.
No.
Devastate London.
Yeah, one city.
One city.
One city's
London in panic.
Yeah.
It's about as accurate as the American trailer.
Oh my god. The American trailer, literally a tagline, see women be defiled by Martians. Which is, I'm sorry, not only factually incorrect, and a bad case of mismarketing, also very disgusting. I am so disappointed in that.
What was the name of it over there?
5 Million Years to Earth.
Because so this was the third Quatermass movie, but when the first movie came out, the Quatermass Experiment, not to be mixed up with the TV series, which was Experiment.
The normal spelling.
The normal spelling of it. That had a different name over there as well because Quatermass wasn't known. So that trend followed on and said, well, if you'd called the first one Quatermass, by the time you got to this one, you probably could have called it that.
Yeah, probably.
Quatermass has been around in various different forms in the UK for a while. So there's the TV serials in which one of these is named after.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there was radio plays. I know there's been some serials after this movie. It's not just the last of the theatrical movies, even though they were planning on a fourth one.
They were.
In the build-up to this one, I watched... Because I hadn't seen this one all the way through until recently. It's a fan favourite. It's a favourite of yours, isn't it?
It's my favourite Hammer movie.
And I think we were at my parents' house and it was just on. So I watched the end of the movie.
You saw like the last 20 minutes, I think.
And it was wild.
Yeah. No context.
No context.
You
I was
saw
like...
London in flames.
I also looked at this thinking, this doesn't look like a Hammer film.
No.
There's a quality to this that's missing.
This looks good, by Jove.
I'm not saying the Hammer films aren't good, but they are quite cheap.
Well, there is reason for that. We'll get into it. But yes, there is context.
So this is the first time I've watched it in its entirety, and I did really like it.
I'm very happy about that.
But I watched, in the lead up to it, I watched the Quatermass Experiment from, I believe that was 58.
Right.
And then I watched Quatermass 2, which I can't remember, that might have been like 59 or 60. I really liked Quatermass 2, I've got to say. I thought Quatermass 2 was I enjoyed the first film. Quatermass 2 I had a lot of fun with, and they were starring, was it Dunleavy?
In those two films, Brian Donlevy plays Quatermass. In the 1959 TV serial, he's played by a guy called Andre Morel.
Bernard Quatermass is played by Andrew Keir in this incarnation, but that wasn't always going to be the case. They did want Dunleavy back at one point, but they couldn't make it work.
I don't think Neil wanted Donlevy
No,
back.
he didn't. He didn't like him.
He really did not like the two previous films.
He really
adaptations.
didn't. They did get in touch with Andre Morel as well. I bet he did it. If you notice this poster here, the guy with the mustache, that also is not Andrew Keir.
Yes.
That was...
I think it's a guy called John Neville.
Yeah, so he wasn't really close to play the role, so that's why some early posters for it in the UK have his face on them. When we put the Blu-ray in, it has that poster, but with Andrew Keir's
It's a shame because it's such a beautiful looking poster. wrong
That's just not the
dude.
start.
I should also say sorry as well. I know I just said that Nigel Neal was not happy with the casting of Brian Donlevy in the film. I don't think he liked the two films at all. Nigel Neal wrote the screenplay for the serial, I think, even for the two previous films as well.
We found out he also wrote the TV adaptation of Woman in Black.
Yes, he did. Decades later.
Very, very talented writer. And I think, I'm right in saying, he thinks Andrew Keir is the closest to how he envisioned the character.
He was very happy with Keir's performance. I think he was happy with the film at large.
Finally, they got it.
Finally, they got it right for Nigel Neal.
Finally, they got it right. They got it right for him. But like anything we've watched, they're just praising his writing. I can see it, especially in this one in particular.
Yeah, I know he's a very, very highly revered, accomplished British screenwriter.
We have previously talked about Andrew Keir in our Hammer Dracula series because he was in Dracula Prince of Darkness.
As was Barbara Shelley.
Yeah, she's in this movie too.
This film reunites them.
Basic premise of this film, it is about a pit. So
it's about this pit.
They're uncovering what they think to be an old German warhead in the London Underground, and they start finding deformed skeletons, and this what they think could be a missile, potentially a ship made out of some sort of impossible material. So they start bringing in various different scientists, including Bernard Quatermass, to investigate what's been going on. So we've got the military led by Colonel Breen, played by Julian Glover, who think that this whole thing could be some sort of German propaganda. Weird things start happening around the ship and start to feed into urban legends from around the area. Because we have some abandoned houses that the army says were blown up during the Blitz, but the police actually say, oh no, they were actually banned long before because hauntings.
Yes.
And strange goings on. The thing about this film is it never specifically tells you a lot of things. You're left to kind of
piece it together.
Piece it all together. And well, spoilers.
Spoilers.
It is a Martian ship.
Yes.
Once they get it open, they find the remains of these praying mantis-like creatures, which were the Martians.
Yes, from 5 million years ago.
5 million years ago. And should I go into now what their plan kind of was?
I think we need to. I adore this movie, but it's quite ambitious, I think, in what it is ultimately about.
So I'm right in saying it is based on, there is a serial of the same name, Quatermass and the Pit.
Yes.
I remember we were watching an interview with Mark Gatiss, and he actually thinks the scene where we see the memory of the Martian's homeland was done better in the TV series than it was.
It might well have been.
So it seems like their plan was that on Mars, their civilization would frequently wipe themselves out.
Ritualistic slaughter.
Ritualistic slaughter.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, in order to keep their society as pure as possible. Weirdly, considering in the post-war world and the themes of German, the fear of German propaganda, very much like the Nazis killing a lot of their own for the master race. That kind of seems how the Martians were being later. So the fear is that they came to Earth 5 million years ago and couldn't survive our atmosphere. Very War of the Worlds.
Yes.
And it adds to this. It adds in this big theory that the skeletons that they found were deformed.
Yes.
And that in order for their race to survive through colonization, not conquering, they weren't going to conquer us and enslave us, they were going to colonize the planet, is they took apes from Earth, genetically modified them, and brought them back. And that was the way that their species would survive. And a lot of our more vicious nature comes from the Martians. And there are certain people in our civilization who are affected a lot more by the effects of the ship than others.
Yes.
And that might just be that they have this particular trait.
Yes, like heightened psychic abilities, maybe to tap into, our ancestry, I guess. It's very lofty.
There's a big element of religion in that as well, because it really does say that we are Martians. We
come from them. The film makes that loud and clear. It's one of the reasons why I love this movie so much, is because even as a kid, this is also one of my mum's favourite films, so I grew up watching it because my mum loves it. So even as a kid, when I was watching it, I was struck by the whole premise, because Quatermass and the Pit is one of those horror movies where, on paper, it arguably shouldn't work, because it encompasses so many different subgenres. It's undeniably science fiction. it also delves into the supernatural, but it also deals with religion as well. I mean, we will talk about the ending, I'm sure, but we get the devil popping up
Yeah.
in one of the, honestly, like, coolest effects I've ever seen of, you know, a literal incarnation of the horned devil. It's so, like, it's so striking, but yet there are so many different elements that are all at play, and it's kind of like on paper, well, there's so many things going on here. The element of ghosts, the elements of God, religion, of science, of Martians. Somehow it works.
When you watch it this time, were you picking up on things you hadn't picked up when you watched it when you were younger?
Yeah.
And obviously, well, seeing the ending in context helped for me.
Yeah.
But it's really smart writing in a way that I just didn't see that in the first. There were themes in the first one. But this one just feels like so much smarter. And I kind of like the whole trilogy is kind of bookended with religion. Because in the first movie, the creature does make its way into a church.
Yes.
And with this one, when things, you know, we have an engineer that goes in there and is really badly affected by the ship and starts seeing memories, and he ends up going to a church for salvation. So kind of the whole trilogy is bookended with this underlying thing of religion being the safety net for men of science.
Yes.
Even though it's an engineer, like a lot of them do look to religion as a sort of, it is just like kind of like a bit of a safety net for them.
Yeah, definitely.
For these big lofty ideas.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
And they come up with this device that absolutely would not even exist today, so we could see people's dreams. So they want Quatermass and I think it's a James Donald's character who's a
Rhodey.
Dr. Rhodey. They want someone with this heightened psychic ability to interact with the ship so that we can see the memories of the ship, and that's how we see the Martian homeworld of them. To be honest, like in pretty low resolution by like low res dreams.
Yeah.
Wiping each other out.
Yeah.
And there is something very eerie about it. It's not even that it's gruesome to watch. Because overall, I wouldn't say this isn't a gruesome film.
No.
But it did receive an X rating, mainly because of its themes and the sound.
Sound design.
So when they drill into this impossible material, they have to go and get this incredibly special drill that is, I can't remember the material, but it's tougher than diamond. I can imagine being in the cinema, they must have toned it down because the noise it makes is so unnatural, and the way it seems to impact the characters is so unique, and I've just never heard of a film get a higher rating based on sound.
The sound design.
Which I find really, really cool.
Try once more.
I have memories of watching that scene again when I was little and always having to turn down the volume because it was quite unnerving to listen to it. And they do it like 3 times.
Yeah.
But you can see like physically it's taking its toll on them. They're all sweaty. Lots of sweat in this movie. Lots of men sweating through stress and tension and anxiety.
The film feels a bit dirty, and I like.
Well, they're all in clay and everything because again, like they're digging underground. It's a dirty looking film. Something I love and I appreciate more the more I watch it is this whole area the film centers around like this kind of square, I suppose, of London called Hobbs Lane, Hobbs End, which is where the underground is, it's a fictional underground. And yet it's where all these vacant houses are that have, all the inhabitants have left over the years because of these spooky, supernatural, ghost-like appearances. And in history records going back to like the 1700s, there have been appearances of these hideous, ape-like small creatures that people have commented on. And they make the link, Quatermass and Barbara Shelley's character, who's also called Barbara, that all of these appearances have been invoked by disturbances of the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense now because these workmen have been drilling in Hobbs End Station and they've uncovered the pit, and it's again the disturbances that have kind of triggered everything. So it's always creeped me out. I mean, that scene where the policeman escorts them to check out the vacant houses, I always find it so eerie. Nothing happens in that scene. It's just a vacant, derelict house.
And that policeman puts in such a good performance
He really
without
does.
really doing anything, and it sells it so well.
Absolutely. And then
Eats up every bit of scenery he has there. He's not got a big part.
So uncomfortable. And you can see the fingernail scratches on the wall. It's like, what happened in this house? Something I think the film does really, really well is the building of the tension of this ship. That, you know, especially when the military completely uncover it and you see it in its entirety.
There's something so unnatural about it.
The shape and everything, and then when they're trying to torchlight it just to see the effect of it, and it doesn't have any effect on the outside of it at all. And there's just this wonderful kind of building of tension throughout the movie. It's like every single time someone goes into it, something happens. One of the military men goes in to like take out some equipment, and we don't see what he sees, but he says he saw a figure inside there. And again, the way he describes it, of this little deformed being, it really plays havoc with your imagination.
Also,
I think
they can't touch it.
No, it gives you like frostbite.
It's like it's warm where they are, but they get frostbite if
Yeah.
they can't touch it without gloves.
Yeah.
I'd better put some gloves on, sir. Why? The sergeant's got a touch of it too, like frostbite.
It's just like almost the ship literally kind of like has this pulsing energy. It's like it's building and building and building. And I think when the film ultimately crescendos, it's so wonderful, like that release of all that tension, and things just go to apeshit. It's great. I love this movie.
Well, you actually made a link to Ghostwatch that I wasn't expecting.
No, I wasn't expecting.
So the ending of this movie, things kind of get worse. It's like the ship feeds off energy given to it by people being near it, people interacting with it.
Yeah.
And that's the same as what happens at the end of Ghostwatch. The ghostly activity inside the studio is increased by more people calling in. Is what happens here. So as the event gets bigger and there's more eyes on us, like more scientists, more military, then the news get involved. Essentially, us talking about it makes the situation worse.
Yes,
and it is one of those things that if we just left it alone, it would have went away.
Yeah.
They should have if they literally just buried it.
Yeah. It all would have been okay.
It all would have okay, but it would have been okay.
And it arguably as well, Quatermass is kind of to blame in a way, because he is the one that goes to the press and says,
he does.
We've uncovered what we think is an alien ship. And it's the military that are like, what the fuck are you doing? You don't have any authority to do that. You've just caused mass panic on the streets of London.
I saw this as, I can see both sides. I can see the military side of it, of thinking this could still be a bomb. They've literally, they don't want to take the word of, no, this is aliens.
Yeah, exactly. So
they also don't want it to fall into the hands of any other country. Yeah. But then you got Quatermass' side of it. It's like, I don't particularly trust this in the hands of the in the hands of the military. Again, things that he's seen in the previous films, he doesn't. Well, I imagine he doesn't particularly trust a lot of government bodies, even though he is technically part of
the British Experimental Rocket Group.
I think he leaked it in order to get the truth out there, and for it not just to be taken away and buried by the military and used for bad things. But yeah, ultimately, him doing that
does lead to this, not mass hysteria, but this mass interest.
This mass energy going into this thing.
Everyone in London is now obsessed. Is it really a Martian ship? Is it really German propaganda? What's going on? And Colonel Breen, who is like our main army guy, I suppose, and him and Quatermass butt heads constantly. Like you've got Quatermass fully believing in the alien theory, and then you've got Breen, who even, when they discover the arthropods, I think basically like the locust-like creatures, even he's like, oh, it's German propaganda, they were trying to scare us, blah, blah, blah. But, even Quatermass says, look, do you really think that the Germans would create something as impenetrable as this ship and then lose the secret? And never create anything like this ever again? It's like, come on, Breen. This is clearly supernatural. But now, again, as I get a bit older, I do understand the duality. I do understand both sides. But it is really, really interesting. But yeah, I love the growing sense of dread with this ship. I mean, it's stationary throughout the entire movie.
It never moves.
It never moves. It always stays underground, but there's just even the way like the characters kind of look at it and interact with it, it's like there is an evil that emanates
from that thing. I think we need to talk about why we think this film seems to be higher quality than previous Hammer films, even some Hammer films that come afterwards, because it does feel on a much bigger scale, and that is because the whole thing is a set. Hammer
usually filmed at Elstree. I don't know if it wasn't available to them, but they decided to make use of a vacant backlot at MGM.
I know they always complained about the previous studios always being too small to do whatever they did. So they ended up with this basically free reign of this studio to build this incredible set.
And there's a lot of external sequences. The outside of the underground, everything. It's all one big set.
And the whole underground, apparently they littered it with posters of their own films.
Yeah.
But they never, it's one of those things, like, it's smart set design because it never concentrates on them. They're just kind of in the background. And to me, really makes that, if the world feel lived in, but having the whole thing be a set. Because there's lots of moments where things start levitating, like ground will start shaking, things moving in impossible ways. If they were just filming in a street, or if they were just filming at Elstree, I don't think they could have done what they did with this film. I think they needed a big studio with the most amount of control.
Yeah.
And it just makes this film feel, not the shit on Hammer, but more professional.
There is a higher quality to this. Absolutely.
Because something that Hammer always struggled with was competing with the States.
Yes.
Like, especially going into the 70s.
Yeah.
They couldn't keep up with the cost to make the type of quality movies. But this feels like it's on that level.
It
just
is.
Like, production design is incredible. The acting is top notch, really good direction, and just some great writing.
I think something that stood out for me as well, on the most recent watch, is this is really an ensemble cast. And I know in previous Hammer films, especially the Dracula ones, which we've most recently covered, obviously you get more than one character, you get a collection of characters. But there is usually, like, the main boy and the main girl. That's what it boils down to a lot of the time. This, we have Quatermass working with Barbara, who's working with Roni. We also have the military. We have the cabinet ministers. There's a lot of people involved, and everyone kind of gets equal screen time. So yeah, Quatermass is kind of like our main guy, but all of the other actors bring an extra kind of caliber to it that we get to spend a lot of time with.
The cabinet minister.
So
it's been not too long since we did Predator. But yeah, Quatermass, he's not the character that knows everything. He relies. He's a smart guy. He's a smart fella.
Yeah.
But he relies on smart people around him to help work things out. So he's not like one of those leads that will just know everything or stumble across the answers. It requires that ensemble.
Yeah.
Even to an extent, there's things he learns about the ship purely from the military.
Yes.
From their experiments on it. Then you got all the other scientists that work on, the arthropods and stuff, and even just looking through history of evolution using their tech. He needs the help of everybody to work out what's going on. And realistically, I'd say they kind of only scratch the surface, and there's a lot of assumption going on.
There is. Also, he initially dismisses Barbara, where she does her own research into the supernatural elements of Hobbs Lane and the area, going back, way back when. And she presents him with all these, articles and whatnot, and he's like, "Oh, come on, we're scientists. We shouldn't be believing stories about ghosts and goblins and stuff." And she insists, like, "No, we need to look into this. There is clearly some kind of correlation here."
Yeah.
So
and he works out it's the dates that line up.
Yeah.
Because just talk about hobgoblins. So it's called Hobbs Lane.
Hobbs Lane.
And I don't know if this comes from anything from that, but they renamed it because Hob with one B would be a nickname for the devil. Obviously something that we see later in the film.
New ones like Hobbs the cricketer.
The old one. Hob was once a sort of nickname for the devil.
But they changed it to two B's to try and make it not seem like that. But I think it was the writer that said that it was meant to also be Hob as in hobgoblin. Basically,
this whole area is just over the many years. There's been evil supernatural manifestations of things. And it all centers back to this ship that's trapped in the pit.
So as we get into the crescendo of this film, the ship kind of comes alive and it starts to glow and pulse. It starts like pushing people away from it, but also really starts to affect certain people. and people get violent. And we can kind of see it starts to replicate what we saw happen on Mars. They start gathering in groups and attacking each other. Some people even start jumping from windows. London is in absolute chaos. And what is, I think, a genius move is, usually in this situation, our main character would be fine or would be temporarily overtaken to it, but he can beat himself. Quatermass is fully affected by this. James Donald's, what's his character called again? Dr. Roney, who snaps him out of it, literally pulls him away from the crowd, gives him some whiskey, and even then it does overtake him again. To have our main character be put in such a vulnerable position and show that he is just kind of like everybody else. Because this thing is completely out of his control. It's bigger than him. It's bigger than London.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like that vulnerable moment for that character, and it just shows Andrew Keir. Well, it gives Andrew Keir the chance to really go for it.
I think he's wonderful in this. I think Andrew Keir is quite sexy.
We watched the movie, and you were kind of saying, "Oh, you kind of think I'll grow into looking like Andrew Keir when I'm older." I'm like, I could hope. I could hope.
I think it's a possibility. Maybe just subconsciously. That's why I.
Is this just because he's an elderly man with a beard?
He's not an elderly man. No. Like, I do think he's a good-looking man, Andrew Keir. I think it's more just his whole demeanor. Like, there's a surliness to him, but he's got like a bit of a sense of humor as well. But I think it's just the way he kind of carries himself. He's very demure, and he's a gentleman.
But then when you see him break down, and he's like, there's a panic, like he's almost so shocked that even he was affected so heavily by this.
Well, I find it interesting because obviously I've not seen the previous two films or the serial, but it's interesting to me that Nigel Neal liked Keir's interpretation of it. So I'm interested to compare the other portrayals. But yeah, just on the ending, when things really do start going apeshit, and it is because, you know, it's the ship is drawing on everyone's collective energy of everyone, all the TV reporters, all the cameras that are in the underground station at this point, but also everybody watching it from the pubs and from their homes, feeding this energy. What's basically happening is, yes, going back to what happened on Mars all those years ago, where the locusts, arthropods, whatever you want to call them, had this very violent mentality to kill the weaker beings. That mentality is now manifesting in humans, and it's again all emanating from the ship. This subconscious need to kill, and just, you know, for the fittest and the strongest to survive. That's what's happening. It's just this kind of collective mass. I don't know, like a hive mind in a way. Would you say?
What's interesting is, this is how the Martian side to live, but they're wiped out now.
Yeah, they're gone. But
it's just that mentality. So
this is their legacy.
This survival of the fittest. It didn't work.
No.
It's like, I kind of saw it as a society we should. I think the film's saying that the society should help the weakest.
Yes.
And bring them up rather than pushing them aside.
Yeah, don't exterminate.
Which seems, when I say it out loud, it seems obvious.
But, you know,
it does, doesn't it? It seems really obvious. But that's kind of what I got when watching the film, because ultimately whatever the Martians didn't work.
It's fascinating as well because the Martians, I know you touched on it before, but they knew they were dying, or they knew, you know, they were on the cusp of the brink of extinction for whatever reason. So it wasn't about preserving their race. They were more interested in preserving their ideology.
Yeah, their religion.
Their religion.
Yeah, see, it links back to religion in all these films.
Well, I'll tell you what else links back to religion. Who pops up at the end of this movie?
The devil.
We get the Horned Devil, baby.
And he basically is a giant praying mantis by the looks of him.
So this, right, again, when I was little, used to confuse me slightly because I was always so startled when the devil appeared, and it really did used to scare me because I stand by the effects of this guy are incredible. I don't know how they did it. It's probably very simple.
There's an eeriness about it.
It's the score when he appears as well. There's like the da-da, and then Quatermass is like, it's the devil, the Horned Devil. No, I think it's Roney that says that, sorry. But yeah, it's just so jarring. Now, I think when I was little, what I thought was happening was all of this chaos and all of this anarchy on the streets of London. I didn't mean to do that. Is all this evil happening in such a short, confined space has conjured up, you know, like the devil, like, you know, ooh, murder, anarchy, what's going on? I want to have a little look at this. That's what I thought. And now I realise that actually, yeah, that probably did happen. He's come up because so much carnage is ensuing. But he looks like the Locust. Mm-hmm. And that is because all of this subconscious energy that the Martians have ingrained in us over these millions of years of evolution, our image of the devil is inspired by our forebearers, the Martians. Yeah. That's why he looks the way he does. That's why we always envision the devil with the horns, because we are subconsciously remembering our Martian ancestors. And I only clocked that so recently.
Religion is almost, or religious stories are also kind of used to defeat the devil.
Yes.
They even say it's like, well, they say, the enemy of the devil is iron. And that we see that a lot in like a lot of supernatural tales, like even like in the show Supernatural, spirits can't pass over corrugated iron and stuff like that.
I don't know my Bible well, so I will take the screenplay's word about that.
So they decide to use this giant metal crane, so they can, using the mixture of, well, it's made of iron, we can ground it. That should dispel all the energy, because this is like, matter. It's just energy. It needs to be dispelled somewhere, because if this is the collective energy of everyone in London, dispel it back into the earth again, and that should end it. And even Quatermass says it can't be that simple.
If it were possible to project a mass of metal into it, connect it to the ground, discharge it to the earth. Yes. No, it's too simple.
But it ties it again back to religion. So it kind of makes you think: is the Bible just something subconscious from the Martians?
Makes you think.
It's the way that we've interpreted their teachings.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Roni. I just keep wanting to call him James Donald. Climbs up to the crane and steers it into the devil.
Yeah.
And it hits him and he just explodes. So Roni dies.
I don't think he meant to kill himself.
I don't think he meant to kill himself in the process either.
The crane does sort of like become...
Yeah. The devil tries to take it out, so he kind of like ends up on the front of it, and
he just has no choice but to kind of let it swing into
and it does work, but then like again, the advantage of having such a big set is it's wrecked afterwards. And usually with these side of movies like this, that crescendo would happen and it just ends, but it doesn't. We see Barbara Shelley and Andrew Keir just standing for a moment, just taking note of what has just happened. And they loop the same bit of footage over all the credits, so it kind of forces you just to keep watching
this moment
of
stillness.
I really...
so much carnage, yeah.
I was like, the version I watched didn't have Julian Glover's death. Not properly, anyway.
Oh my God.
It's probably it's the only jump scare in the film.
Yeah, but my God, is it enough?
Yeah, do you want to explain it?
Okay, so rewind a little bit when all the cameramen are in the pit and they're about to go live with this broadcast of, oh, look at this German propaganda ship. Things start going wild. The ship's energy just kind of explodes and the underground starts falling in on itself. The cameramen are dying, people are fleeing, running on the streets. And we see at some point that Colonel Breen has become entranced by the ship and just, trance-like just walks over to it and then he kind of falls on his knees. We don't really know what happens. And then the camera cuts away and we spend a bit of time with Roni and Quatermass, and Roni's trying to snap Quatermass out of his trance. And Roni asks a question saying, was there anyone left in the underground? Is anyone trapped down there? And Quatermass says, Breen was still down there. And then we just cut to fucking Colonel Breen burnt as a crisp, just kneeling in front of the ship. Oh my God, I cannot tell you how many times... I could never watch that when I was little. And I think that's understandable. I always knew it was coming and I always had to look away. I had to leave the room. It scared me so much. And when we watched it, during daytime TV, it's just on.
It was on the horror channel.
I was bigging it up. I was David, there's a really good jump scare coming up. Like, just wait.
And I went, where is it?
And then they cut it out.
They cut it out for TV.
Yeah.
It doesn't even look, by today's standards, it's so tame.
It's tame, I know, but as a kid, I'm like, oh my God,
I was excited to finally see it.
Yeah. It's good, right?
It was good. I liked it. But it's also like, he's not necessarily a character that deserves to die anyway. There
he's
isn't
not
really
a villain.
Yeah, there isn't a villain of the film. There's no human villain. All there is there's differing opinions.
Yes.
That some characters could perceive as making them the opposition.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everyone is just approaching this problem from a different angle. And I think it might have been Mark Gatiss described it as it's a film of rational men dealing with an irrational situation. And they all have to approach it from their own way of rationalizing it.
Yes.
Within their little boxes.
Yes.
Within their specialities.
It's a very human thing to do.
Ultimately, there's only one side of that debate that can see the bigger picture. But like you said, it do kind of cause all the issues. Maybe if the military had just shipped it away, nothing might have happened.
Yeah.
After a while, they might have even just stored up. I'm giving the military a lot of credit here because ultimately, is this whole problem gone? No. We don't know how many of these ships are still here. It's assumed that this is one of millions that were transporting modified apes back over to the Earth. There could be others that are buried.
Yeah, I mean, Quatermass...
Is most of the bad things, most of the wars that happened throughout history, the Martian side in us taking effect?
Yeah.
Are they just affected by it?
Exactly.
I like it when a film makes me think and have interesting discussions, and that's what this movie does.
Just saying as well that, talking about how there's not really a main villain of this one. Even the devil, when he does pop up, he's just an overseer.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything. He's not intervening. He's not really doing anything. He's just there.
Yeah.
Watching.
We don't even know if he's real. Again, he could just be a manifestation of all this energy.
There is a really eerie moment for me, especially where I think it's just as Roni is swinging, like the crane is going into him, and we kind of have this close-up of the devil's face, and you can just, like, his eyes...
Piercing eyes.
Lock onto Roni. And Roni doesn't look away, and he just, like, this ultimate kind of stare off with each other. But, God, yeah, I can't sing its praises enough. It
just needs to be watched.
It does need to be watched. It is a film that makes you think, and I don't think you can really credit a lot of Hammer movies with that. No, and again, we love Hammer. But, I watch Scars of Dracula, and I'm entertained by it. But, it doesn't make me think about life. It doesn't make me think about religion or science. It's not meant to at the same time, I guess. But I come away from Quatermass, and I'm like, huh.
Our place in the universe.
Whoa. Yeah. And again, that ending where Barbara and Quatermass are just sitting down, just trying to come to terms with what the hell has just happened. London is in chaos, maybe even more that we don't know, we never got to see. But what's going to happen now? How are you going to explain this away?
Exactly. It's a shit. I think Andrew Keir did return to voice Quatermass one time.
It's something happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
96?
There was another, I think ITV might have done it, because I know this is a BBC thing.
Yeah.
There was another serial called The Quatermass Conclusion. But overall, because this film did pretty well. It did pretty well. It was classed as a success. So, Nigel Neal, was that the...
Nigel Neal's...
He was, he had started working on another one. But it just didn't... And that's what ended up becoming the Quatermass Conclusion later on the line. It's one of those things I'm really surprised hasn't had a modern interpretation.
It feels ripe for it. It's a very intelligent, almost philosophical story, this one.
Do modern audiences have the patience for it?
So something, again, I know we keep referring back to an interview with Mark Gatiss, but, we love Mark Gatiss. And he loves Hammer.
Yeah.
And he knows his stuff. And he was talking about, again, theorising if there was a modern adaptation of this film, he fears that it would go down the route of they would prioritise the action and the monster sequences over the science versus religion versus supernatural elements, which are so intrinsic to this film. We don't see the arthropods in action. Like as I said, we don't even see the devil in action when he pops up. It's the discussions and the theology surrounding those things that really take centre stage. And I agree with him. I think if it was made today, the impulse would be, no, we want to see the Martians coming to Earth. We want to see them go, back in time, experimenting on the apes. And so I get it. I do get it. But I also agree. I think in terms of films that are ripe for adaptation, there's enough there.
Or even just another TV series.
Yeah.
up until recently, I'd heard of this film, but I hadn't heard of any of the other stuff. And it's like, so in terms of like British TV legacy, Quatermass is a massive property that I'm really surprised has just never quite come back. Maybe it's just been too long.
They did try and get a fourth one off the ground because this film was successful. And I just don't know what happened. Delays, people unavailable.
Maybe we are right on the cusp of when Hammer started to struggle.
Yeah.
And it could even have just been that.
Yeah. Just a couple of standout scenes. We've already mentioned some of them, but I've always loved that bit where one of the sergeants goes into the pit and he sees something and he's just so petrified by what he sees. And again, just this haunting idea of like a hideous, small, ape-like creature. I don't know, it's eerie.
I was like, Quatermass tells him, don't let the other men see him like this.
Yeah, don't let it go back.
Don't let it infect the other men.
Yeah, the drilling sequence is wonderful in tension, in the sound design. It's great. The discovery of the locusts
was
as
pretty
well.
cool.
I know the effects of the locusts aren't great necessarily, but, you know, it is what it is. We don't spend a huge ton of time with them as it is. Slatton, the mechanic with the drill, when he goes to get his equipment, and that's when we really see the ship kind of
come alive.
Everything around
it almost
is,
feels like it's chasing him.
Yeah, through the streets of London. And then, you know, when he retreats to the church and Quatermass asks him what's going on. Yeah, and he's recounting that story. And there's that really intense close-up on the actor's face. It's disturbing. Barbara's vision when she is affected by the ship, and, you know, they put like the equipment on her and they use her as like the vessel to get the imagery and the memories of the locusts. Obviously, Colonel Breen getting burned. Yeah, and the devil.
It's just a pretty cool film.
It is,
and I'm really glad I now own it. Well, we own it twice, but I'm really glad I picked this up when I saw it. It's like when I found, I think it was this type of edition as well for The Woman in Black, the TV version. Just in stores, I've never seen a copy of that film since I picked it up. And it's been the same with this. Since I picked up this one, now, I go Blu-ray shopping I peruse a lot.
Yeah.
I think basically whenever I go into town, I go and have a look. I've not seen it again. The moral of that story is, if you see a film you want, just get it.
You gotta get it.
Just get it.
Just
because
impulse buy, get it.
Just impulse buy, because you don't know when you're next gonna see it. And our Blu-ray collection is coming along swimmingly.
We are vastly running out of storage.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Do you have any more notes on this one?
I love it. It's not just my personal favourite because of nostalgia. I genuinely think this is the best Hammer movie. For reasons mentioned. It's a very intelligent script. There is a very high quality to it that we've not seen before. The scale of it for a Hammer film is bigger than we've seen before. The ensemble cast, like, it's... I think it's great. I think this is peak.
Yeah, well, even the sheer difference between the first two movies. I think there's a massive jump between the Quatermass Experiment and Quatermass 2. Night and day from Quatermass 2 to Quatermass in the Pit. Like, you don't need to have watched either of those or any of the previous stuff to have understood this movie. I feel like I could have jumped... I don't think knowing the previous films has benefited me in any way other than being able to compare performances and tone.
Something that also stands out for me, because when I think of Hammer, and my normal like favourite Hammer movies are the traditionally gothic monster movies, like Curse of the Werewolf, like Dracula, like the Frankenstein series. This for me stands out because it is set in modern day, and I know that's not unusual for Hammer. They did movies set, you know, at the time of filming, but for me it stands out because it was one of the few that I did watch again when I was little that was actually set in the current day. So it always stood out for me, and it just added to the creepiness and the realism of it all.
Yeah. I also like to shout out our channel members. Obviously they help out massively in helping us be able to buy things like these, which, that's fair, I'm going to buy anyway. There's so many Blu-rays that I've bought that we've not done videos on just because I like things.
Yes, I like things.
Well, I like things, but I'm glad we've done this. I know it's going to be on your list for a long time. And the door is, now that we've started doing Hammer, the door's wide open now. So our list of Hammer films to watch and do just grows.
It does.
Constantly.
Exponentially.
Yeah, so we've got some work to do.
Yeah, Curse of the Werewolf at some point.
Yeah, I really want to do Curse of the Werewolf. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Have you seen Quatermass in the Pit?
If not,
Anyone? All right, because I know we have a couple of older people in the who watch the channel. Have any of you seen the TV version of Quatermass in the Pit by the same name? Can anyone tell us what the main differences are? 'Cause that'd be something I'd be curious about. 'Cause
Yeah.
I couldn't find even just clips
Yeah.
of it, which was annoying.
Interesting.
But definitely give this a chance.
It really is one of the best. And also want to mention that the film is very clearly influential when you hear the caliber of current filmmakers that reference it. So
Absolutely.
Mark Gatiss, obviously we know, is a fan. Apparently Joe Dante is a huge fan of the movie. He has childhood memories of
There's an interview with Joe Dante on this. He has nothing to do with this film.
No.
But he's done an interview talking about it.
Yeah. Martin Scorsese, he's not on the Blu-ray, but I know for a fact he has name-checked Quatermass in the Pit as a big inspiration. Scorsese is a big Hammer fan.
Oh, yes, yeah.
In general.
For a man who's never made a horror movie, he loves his horrors.
I think everyone who's seen this one knows it's a superior film. Yeah.
So, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you when we next see you.